Well, ladies and gentlemen, as the Milwaukee Bucks prepare for their parade celebration following their NBA championships in a grueling, is that the right word for this one? Can I call it a grueling 6-game series against the Phoenix Suns? I guess we can use the word grueling. NBA champions Milwaukee Bucks celebrating. We always know there's going to be somebody to rain on the parade, though. And be clear, I am not one of the people out there that believes everybody needs to agree with everybody on each take. No, because when I come up with my opinions and perspectives and commentary, I don't care who agrees with me. I don't care at all. That's not what goes through my mind, right? But sometimes I believe takes are so egregious and you trying to cater to so many different audiences, which I do believe is part of the problem with the gentleman that we're about to bring up. I believe they're so bad we have to talk about them on the platform. And that is no different. Shout out to Steven Jackson. That All the Smoke podcast is a big deal with him and Matt Barnes. I think Matt Barnes is a star, right? You know, Steven Jackson's along for the ride. No, nothing wrong with that. But Matt Barnes, I believe he's a star in the journalism space, and I rarely give it up to former athletes. But Matt Barnes is actually really good, actually asks some really good questions. Steven Jackson is there. Shout out to Jack, though. Stat was recently a guest on First Things First. And obviously following the Giannis-led Milwaukee Bucks NBA championship, he spoke about it like everybody else is speaking about the Bucks run. So I want to read to you guys first some comments from Giannis, who did speak about super teams, which we did talk about in another video. But I'm going to read these comments to you guys. And then also I want to read to you guys a quote from Steven Jackson on First Thing First, because he's got some interesting thoughts on the current Milwaukee Bucks roster. When asked about deciding to stay with Milwaukee, even though he could have entered unrestricted free agency this summer, Giannis said, "I couldn't leave. There was a job that had to be finished. Coming back, I said this was my city. They trust me. They believe in me. They believe in us. Even when we lose, the city was still on our side, and obviously I wanted to get the job done. It is easy to go somewhere and win a championship with somebody else. It's easy. I could have went to a super team, do my part, and win a championship, but I did it the hard way." And what does Steven Jackson have to say about that? Giannis is on a super team. The Bucks have Drew Holiday and a closer in Chris Middleton. You have a super team. You might not have super names, but don't diminish your teammates. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty confident, like 95% sure, that is absolutely the worst take of 2021. Steven Jackson said that Giannis and the Bucks are, as currently constructed, a super team. So, if this is the case, according to Steven Jackson, every team that's won an NBA championship is a super team. If the Bucks are a super team, every team that's pretty much ever won an NBA championship is a super team. Seriously. You can go back to the Bulls. If we're going to go by that standard, they had some role players. I mean, like seriously, if the Bulls had role players with big names, you switch them in, switch them out. Was Dennis Rodman comparable to Drew Holiday in production from game to game? Like, because that's what we're talking about. Obviously, there was Mike and there was Scotty. We know that. That's Giannis and that's Chris Middleton in regards to production. So, I mean, there's been a lot of Drew Holidays to come around. Seriously, like, I'm being real. I'm not even, like, the Bulls had like 3 or 4 different guys in their run fill the Drew Holiday role. You know, I know, again, obviously Drew Holiday's a super defender, but his shot production is, at best, sometimes awful, right? Like, a lot of times, like, look at the Los Angeles Lakers. They had guys step up into that Drew Holiday role, a guy that could defend and knock down timely buckets. So you're telling me the Lakers had super teams in the early 2000s, the Detroit Pistons, they didn't even have a star. But because they had super names, because Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, these guys became Richard Hamilton. These guys became super names, you know, over time. San Antonio Spurs. You know, I don't look at the Spurs as a super team era. Everybody always brings up that super team thing with the Spurs. I don't do that. Shout out Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and obviously the star and Tim Duncan. Like, I never considered them a super team. You know, the Lakers, back in the late 2000s, like, I don't look at Kobe Bryant, Andrew Bynum, Pau Gasol, and Lamar Odom as a super team. I don't look at that. Now, when we get into the Miami Heat with Wade and Bosh and Braun, super team, right? When we get into the components of the Golden State Warriors, when they got Kevin Durant, not before, but when they got KD, super team. When we get into the Brooklyn Nets, that's a super team. The currently constructed Nets are super team. For me, my rules of a super team, I don't think they were just that far-fetched. I think this is what generally most people go by. A super team consists of probably 3 top 15 to top 18 players. That's my dynamics of a super team. About 3 top 15, top 18 players is what I would look at as, probably around 3 top 20 guys. Most of these, at least 2 of the 3 guys would have had to been the leaders of their basketball team. Perennial all-stars. Like that's my requirements for a super team. Was Chris Middleton a guy who at one point in time a few years ago was in the G League, the leader of any team? No, because he's played his entire career with Giannis. Even Giannis, Giannis is a guy that's just developed over time. He ain't even went into a free agency yet to recruit. I don't believe a super team can happen when the 2 big pieces are both internal. I don't believe that. I never called the Warriors a super team with just Steph, Clay, and Draymond. That's just greatly built, structured rosters from the Warriors. All right, Jrue Holiday, because I guess that's the piece that puts it over the hump for Steven Jackson, who claims that the Bucks are a super team with super names. First and foremost, how in the hell is Jrue Holiday a super name? The casual, I'm talking about the list for me, I call it my fiance list. Does my fiance know who this guy is? I would tend to believe my fiance knows to about 10 to 15. She probably knows about 75% of the top 20 players of the league. My fiance doesn't know who the hell Jrue Holiday is. She barely just learned Giannis' name, right? In the last year. You're telling me Jrue Holiday, a guy for the Pelicans who went under the radar at best throughout his whole tenure there? Nobody ever, and guys around the league always bragged about Jrue Holiday's game, but nobody ever looked at him as a guy that could be the catalyst of your team. Nobody ever did that. You're now telling me Jrue Holiday is a super name in the NBA? I'd argue that I could name 40 names before Jrue Holiday comes to mind before this NBA Finals. He's not a super player, and he's not a super name either, Stat. What are we talking about this a super team? Nobody ever thought the Milwaukee Bucks were a super team. Because when Giannis lost last year, we all talked about how Giannis needed more help, how he didn't have enough pieces. And obviously, yes, they went and acquired Jrue Holiday. He's not an all-star in the league perennially. How can you be a super name if you don't make all-star teams? Come on, Stat. Come on, bro. You cannot be just throwing out egregious takes like this, bro. You know what I think? And I'm supposed to, because I know Steven Jackson's representation. I'm supposed to be interviewing him at some point this summer, or there's a good chance it could happen. I got to bring this BS up to him because this is awful. Sometimes I feel like Steven Jackson says things in which he tries to appease everybody with his takes instead of giving his honest opinion about stuff. And I know people like that. Nothing wrong with that person. That person is a good-hearted person, but they're trying to appease 2 evils at the same time, and you'll never win in life doing that. And I think this take right here saying Giannis is on a super team, he's diminishing his teammate. Bro, the man just dropped 50 and 14 in the NBA Finals Game 6. It is clear as day he's the reason why the Bucks are in the position. All due respect to Middleton, and he is a damn good player. I said Middleton, and I'm not comparing him to Kobe. Y'all know that was my guy. I'm saying Middleton, though, at times filled the Kobe role on that Bucks team. So y'all know I'm giving it up to him. I'm giving him all the respect and credence. But to remotely say Middleton and Holiday, as good as they were in spots, were anywhere near the consistent that Giannis has been, not just in the playoffs. If you watch this Bucks team over the last few years, you know. All Bucks Nation out there, they know the catalyst, the leader. When things weren't going good, was Giannis. It has been Giannis' energy. It has been Giannis' determination, putting on 50 pounds of just pure muscle to transform his body. Watch this, not only transform his body, he transformed the way people look at that team. Come on, bro. This is not a super team by any means. Giannis deserves the right to brag on doing it without a super team. Not even trying to put a super team together. He deserves the right. And Phoenix as well. Phoenix didn't try to super team it. Chris Paul joining Phoenix wasn't like the one where people were like, yo, this puts them over the hump. So I like the fact that we had an NBA Finals of neither super team. And I don't knock super teams. You don't hear me. Look, I'll be a hypocrite if I say that. I don't even knock them like that. I say you better win when you do that, but I don't even knock them like that. I think they're good for basketball. But to act like Giannis is on a super team, no, this is about Giannis' greatness. That's what this is about.